Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/itslayspodcast and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/itslayspodcast and get your free book with your free 30-day trial. And Mike's gonna recommend a book today.
I am indeed. My recommendation is Giovanni's Room by the late, great James Baldwin, who we all love and worship on this podcast.
Yes.
It's a brilliant book. It's timely and timeless, even though it's from the 50s, and I actually had the pleasure of listening to the Audible recording of this particular work, and it's definitely worth downloading and checking out, especially if you're using one of your free tokens. The production is great, the narration is beautiful, and it drips. I love it. Check it out.
And make sure to get it for free at audible.com/itslayspodcast. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie? He's sick fucks. You've seen one too many, bro.
Sid, don't you blame the movies! Movies don't create psychos! Movies make psychos more creative!
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm Rowan.
It's Xylia.
And this is the vibrating notification on your phone in the business meeting that everybody can hear, Mike.
And we are back with another one, as always. I'm just DJ Khaled in real life.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry. I live my best DJ Khaled life. Yeah, so it feels to us like it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Because you guys last heard Lace Crater that came out on time, and we recorded that before we moved, and now we're moved. We're no longer Torontonians, me and Xylia.
Nope.
We're representing that Nova Scotia life.
Yep, living in my brother's old bedroom.
It's the joys of, finding jobs and apartments, all that fun stuff.
Atlantic Canada represent.
I said we're the quintessential millennials, like boomerang generation, like...
Yeah, just living in a bedroom in my parents' house, drinking beers.
Pretty much.
That's pretty much our lives. Hopefully, all the listeners have been okay. Like I said, you guys haven't missed us because we were smart and recorded episodes. But I want to get right into it. It's time for Rowan's question. As always, Xylia, Mike never know this in-depth question so you can get to know them. And I feel like I'm just throwing a softball here, but I wanted to ask a question that I feel, you'd ask a stranger, but I mean, some of you guys are strangers listening to us.
They're not strangers. They're our friends.
You're our friends and family. Even if you're listening for your first time, you are now my friends and family. All right, so I want to know, what is your favorite season of the year and why? Let's start with Xylia.
No, not me.
Oh,
not
no,
me.
let's start with Mike.
Mine was the first one.
Honestly, fall, because as anybody who knows me in real life can unfortunately attest, I am an obsessive sweater collector.
It's
I
true.
love thick wool sweaters and cardigans, and fall is that.
Cashmere.
Yes, cashmere. I have several cashmere pieces, vintage. I have some designer pieces I picked up at shops, and
I feel like the only time I've ever seen you in a shirt, I could probably count on both hands, and usually it's because tequila is involved.
the tequila
and that's
has spilled on my sweater, so I've stripped down to whatever bizarre graphic tee I've been wearing underneath that just clashes. But yeah, so I get to wear sweaters, and it's temperate, and all of the great seasonal drinks come out, like at Starbucks and Second Cup, and all your local coffee shops and stuff like that. And it's just wonderful. It's right before the year just starts to go to shit again in the winter and Christmas time. So it's sort of like the calm before the storm.
Are you living that pumpkin spice basic life, or?
I am indeed. I have lost track in the last week of how many I've drank, so...
I don't know if I've ever had anything pumpkin spice from any of these places.
My sister used to work at Starbucks, and she... I don't know, for some reason or other, they had to take the pump home, or like they were getting rid of the fucking jug with the pump. I don't know why. Maybe it wasn't legit. Don't get mad at my sister. She doesn't work at Starbucks anymore. And for like ever, she had this fucking thing in our freezer. I don't think she ever used it, but
well, it's probably because it
whole
expired.
Thing of maybe it's this whole thing of pumpkin spice, whatever season, like
the syrup,
syrup in our freezer.
Cecily has to confirm on Instagram to all the listeners.
I'm actually jealous.
Was it stolen or was it expired?
I would literally dump all of the food in my freezer to fit a giant thing of pumpkin spice syrup in there. I'm not gonna lie.
It was huge. Like, it took up half the freezer.
Also, she used to provide me with numerous complimentary pumpkin flavored beverages on the down low. So friend of the show, Cecily, we love you.
Xylia.
Okay, I can never decide. It's definitely between summer and fall. Summer because it's warm or hot, and I like doing things outside, and there's lots of nature, and it's very green. You can go to the water, like all that great stuff. But I love fall because I love that crispness in the air. I love, like, my whole aesthetic is very, like, the clothes I wear, I layer a lot, so it's very, like, fall. Also, my birthday is in the fall, so that's, like, the real reason.
Is November the fall?
September, October, November is the fall.
Oh, absolutely.
The end of November?
Winter doesn't start until December 21st.
Okay.
Well after my birthday.
Okay. I'm being attacked.
What's your sign again?
I'm on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius.
Scorpio, yes, I knew you were a fucking Scorpio. You are such a Scorpio.
I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna look it up later.
I love you despite your Scorpio-ness.
Whoa. I'm on the cusp of revolution is what my cusp is called.
Oh, okay.
I would probably say fall. I was gonna say spring and fall, but I'm not. Yeah, spring. Messy. I like fall. I'm one of those people that, like, when I go to sleep, even in the winter, like, all windows are open. It needs to be like minus 80 in my bedroom. So I love the cool breeze of the fall. You know, I'm like a graphics tee guy, but the cold doesn't really bug me. So unlike Mike, I can still just wear a t-shirt. I'm a bigger guy, so I can wear it in the fall. And I layer as well.
Who just wears a t-shirt in the fall? We live in Canada.
Tough guys like
northern, me. I wouldn't say northern Canada, but it's certainly not hot.
It's also
the lunatic you married is the answer.
Yeah, exactly. It's also a sweet time for me to bust open my, rock my Stranger Things vest. I rock that every day anyway.
You rock that all summer this summer.
It's more appropriate in fall. And Halloween, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Halloween, obviously.
I mean...
That goes without saying, it's our Christmas.
Yeah, it's basically my Christmas. So, fall. And end of story, period. Whoa, I was like really passionate
very
about
passionate
that.
about that.
I think we should just get into it. Our pick. Mike, do you want to say what the pick was? This was your pick.
Sure, yes. This was one that I was excited about. It's The Perfection, which I guess you could say it's 2018, I think it was originally slated. And it was released in 2019. But either way, from the last year, yes, The Perfection. Starring the brilliant Logan Browning and Allison Williams.
IMDb says 2018, so we'll go with that.
We'll go with that, yes. That sounds right.
So let's get into the trailer, and then we will be back with all the goodness of this episode.
What is happening to me? I'm burning up.
It's gonna be okay, Lizzie.
Oh, it's not. Oh, God, it's not. Listen to me. Something is wrong. Something is wrong with me.
Lizzie, I know. That's why we need to get you help.
I'm dying. I'm dying. What's happening? What's happening?
Oh, my God.
What's happening?
I don't know.
Oh, my God. What is it?
I don't know.
What the fuck? Looking alive! It's bugs! Help me! Help me, darling! Help me!
You know,
what you have to do.
Well, you know what happens now.
And we are back. So, as always, we'll get into the bio, which is always fascinating on IMDb. This one looks a little longer than one sentence, which might be the first, which is, when troubled musical prodigy Charlotte seeks out Elizabeth, the new star pupil of her former school, the encounter sends both musicians down a sinister path with shocking consequences.
Yep, that sums it up pretty well.
I mean, yeah, I think...
Whoever writes these, I say this time and time again, whoever writes these is incredibly concise.
They want to get straight to the point.
They really kind of, most of the time, really sum it up with very few words.
But concision is, a quality that a lot of people lack these days, so...
It's true.
And it's a virtue.
Maybe some people...
Concision is a virtue. Yes.
As we extended a simple question about the seasons into longer than I'm sure anyone wanted to listen to any of us talk.
They're like, forward.
Spotify skip 30 seconds. So I will bring up, it is directed by Richard Shepard. I recognize the name. I wasn't so, I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head. Some quick research told me that he is very well known for writing pilots that get shows signed and made into full TV shows. So he wrote the pilot for Criminal Minds.
Oh, wow.
The shows he wrote pilots for, he also did end up doing other episodes. He became famous for writing the pilot for Ugly Betty.
Oh, I love Ugly Betty.
And then went on to produce a bunch of episodes.
And speaking of shows, I just want to put this out here because every episode you have to have at least one reference to the OC. And I wanted to just say I'm playing this game Quiz Up, and yesterday I was second best in the world in the OC category.
Wow.
Random...
Is this a brag, or are you trying to tear yourself down?
A humble brag.
It's definitely a not so humble brag. So that's just for our audience's piece of OC tidbit.
The other stuff he did was 30 Rock. He did a bunch of episodes of that. Girls, I think, is probably what he's more currently known for. He did a whole bunch of that. And
which makes sense, because she's
Allison Williams is in it.
Yes. And the new Twilight Zone show, he also did an episode for, I believe. And then since Mike already brought it up, this is starring Allison Williams from Girls.
Get Out.
Maybe a little movie called Get Out.
Just a minor classic, that's all. Not a masterpiece at all.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Also apparently has a big role in the series of Unfortunate Events show on Netflix. I've never seen it, but...
After I saw that movie, I could never...
She's in that. And then also co-starring Logan Browning.
Oh, Queen.
Yes.
Dear White People.
Yeah, we love Logan.
Dear White People, if you don't watch that show, so good. Also, I was interested in the other things she's been in. She was in Powers, so Brian Michael Bendis' show. I think that was on Amazon or something.
I can't remember. It was one of those services, yeah.
She was on Meet the Browns, the entire show. Xylia, you should remember that show, because you used to watch a show that...
It's like a family sitcom.
Yeah,
it was
but
like
it's a spin-off.
What was the original?
I can't think what the original one was, but it was basically like a TBS, like, sitcom. And also her breakout role was starring as one of the Brats in the Bratz movies.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard of that before. She does look like a Bratz doll, actually. There's a specific Bratz doll.
And actually, she did guest judge spot on RuPaul's Drag Race last year, I think. She had this amazing outfit on, and she did look like a Bratz doll, and it was spectacular. Like, she just never doesn't look amazing.
We tried to watch RuPaul's Drag Race that like after it was done on Netflix. Like we had watched all the seasons, but we can only find it on Daily Motion. Not that I advocate looking up things illegally, but we could only find it on Daily Motion. It was a really terrible quality, so we haven't seen like the last season or two.
Yeah,
it's pretty upsetting.
We gave up.
They'll show up eventually.
Yeah, we'll find
Come
them.
on, Netflix.
So I think this is, anything's a good lead into, what I like to call Mike's Corner, where Mike tells us about, weird people on IMDb and what they do.
Okay, so this wasn't as strange of a bunch of parental guides and tags and stuff like that as some of the movies have been. Partially probably because it's a newer movie and it's, a fairly indie style movie and it still really has a cult following, I think, if anything. But I had a couple that I thought were just interesting. One is a parental advisory. This is a direct quote. Viewers are getting physically sick due to the scenes in this movie. I'm like, okay, really? Physically? Like, we're taking this literally here. A girl projectile vomits in a car. It's a bus, first of all.
It's definitely a bus.
It's a bus. It's very specific plot point that it's a bus. All over the windows, and the immense close-up, shows maggots. This was after she claimed that she was hungover and downed a bottle of ibuprofen. She continues to vomit outside the bus as well. I just thought this was the most strangely worded, weirdly specific, and yet contextually inaccurate description of, the violence and gore in this movie.
The person that did that is probably friends with the person that wrote the bio. They're like buddies.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So
one's
now,
really bad at writing, one's really good.
In terms of tags, we kind of have the standard stuff, and some of it's, understandable. Like, you've got female nudity and, like, male frontal nudity. So, obviously anybody who's, looking to get their jollies off will stumble upon this movie. Then you've got, like, cellist, which, okay, yes, yep, fair enough. If you're looking for something about musician, star student, which is, a little bit more specific. Tied feet, intense lesbian sex. Now, I mean, it's...
Intense.
I'm just gonna throw this out there that there was a lesbian sex scene. I don't know anybody other than maybe a nun above the age of 70 who might consider that sex scene intense. Like, I don't even think there was any actual nudity. I think it was all sort of, like, implied. Anyway.
It was.
And then we've got colleague relationship, which I just thought was the cutest.
I mean, it's cute unless
Co-workers
it's
in
about
love.
that guy.
Well, yes, and see, that's the thing. And then you look at this and you say, this is actually a very layered tag, because it's like, what are the colleague relationships that this is referring to?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many. And some of them are more horrific than others.
That is true.
Say? Who's to say, except the person that wrote it? And that's all I got. That was just the only vaguely interesting ones.
Horror hounds. Do you guys like horror music? I like horror music. Xylia likes horror music. We know Mike definitely loves horror music. So if you love horror music like we do, join us on Spotify. We have a playlist up called the It Slays Podcast Horrific Playlist. We have some of our favorite tasty jams from some of our favorite horror movies, and we're always consistently adding to the list. And let us know. You can email us or Facebook or Instagram us and let us know if there's anything we should add to the playlist. Well, let's get right into it. Start with our favorite scene. Normally I'm nice and, as a humble host, I pass it to one of you. But I'm surprising everyone. I'm starting because I'm going to hope that I can insert a clip at somewhere here, because I have to say, best quote of the movie. It's probably going to be the tagline of this episode. Let me just read you this beautiful quote from the movie.
I can't hold it. I can't hold it.
You can make it.
Oh, fuck, I'm gonna show my
You more steps. You're so close.
I'm sure that I can't hold it. I can't hold it. I'm gonna shit.
You can do it.
I'm gonna shit.
You can do this.
It's got big bridesmaids energy.
Was definitely like one of my favorite, like probably not supposed to be comedic scenes in the entire movie. Was her literally trying not to shit herself on a bus
When nobody knew English and everybody's like, what the fuck's going on?
But it was also like kind of terrifying, because I was like envisioning that. I'm like, that would be literal
Horrible.
hell.
Can I interject a personal story here?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Several years ago, I got very ill after eating A&W chicken. That was not properly cooked, and I thought that as I was eating it. So as a result, for 2 days after that, I got horrifically bad food poisoning. And I was going to meet my property management girl to get the keys to my new apartment. And I had to go that day, and I had to take a bus for an hour from one city to another.
That's the worst.
Oh my
And
God.
I essentially I was having just traumatic flashbacks while watching this movie to sitting on that bus and trying not to puke my guts up on the person's head in front of me and trying not to shit my pants. And it turned out that I had to get off the bus in the middle of nowhere because I was going to explode all over the place. So just this
really
shit
traumatic for
happens.
you.
It's traumatic.
It's true.
You might watch it and think that is a terrible thing to happen and it's a horrific position to be put in. And I'm just going to confirm it is fucking awful. It is awful. Now, I was not in the middle of nowhere, out in the woods. It was just, I was in suburbia and I was just on a street that I wasn't familiar with and I just had to jump out and roll around on the sidewalk and these people were just staring at me and probably thinking that I was drunk or on Oxycontin or something. But, I was like, no, I'm just trying not to have my ass explode all over your fence.
At least if it was in the woods, you would be like, there would be no one around and you could have
I
more
would have
freedom.
actually preferred it. I would have just gone in the woods, puked and shit all over the place and then, dragged my ass back to the bus stop.
There's actually nothing that worse than being sick and knowing you have to take an hour plus bus ride because you're like, what do I do in that situation? Like, I can't just get off and then go find somewhere and then I gotta wait for the bus again because it's always when you're on your way to work or some stupid shit.
And especially in their case where we saw the bus, it's
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 really
an
broken
old
down.
school bus. It's not, we're not talking about a luxurious bus with a
a
bathroom.
and
Yeah.
It's no Acadia lines.
Absolutely terrible. How about you guys? Some memorable scenes, some of your favorite scenes.
Well, I mean, this is the standout scene, I think, for all of us.
Yeah. I think, I love that scene, and then when you find out that she actually took, was given pills, and none of that was real, it was all hallucination, I love that part, too. Oh, and also, when I was on the bus, when they're on the bus, and she's, trying to call, and they were no cell phone service, I'm like, of fucking course, every damn movie does it.
Our listeners should know by now how annoyed Xylia gets at
Every
no
time.
cell phone service.
But then they actually did have cell phone service. The other girl just fucks with her cell phone, which happens literally every time. It's not that people actually don't have service, is that somebody fucks with it.
I did want to say that the whole, before we kind of get the twist in the movie, and the stuff was in her arm or whatever, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? I thought that was really cool because I really didn't know much about this coming into it. And we had some ideas, when you're watching it, because the beginning, that guy throws up and,
You think it's actually an a
we're
virus.
oh,
yeah,
it's
it
gonna
might be one of those kind of outbreak style.
Yeah, it's gonna be a zombie or something like that. And then that happens and I'm just oh man, this is gonna be this body horror,
Cronenberg
thing. And then the twist was so effective because I really did not see, I don't know, did you guys see that coming?
No, I didn't. I kind of had a clue when she whips out the machete and I'm like, where the fuck did she get a machete? And I knew something was weird there, but that was at the end of the scene.
Well, I will say that I actually had primed myself for that to happen shortly before it did, because after Get Out, I don't trust Allison Williams. I think she's the untrustworthy white lady. So I had primed myself and I was really paying close attention for her to start doing nefarious things. So I didn't, right from the get-go, I didn't trust her. So I sort of was saying what if she's somehow controlling this and instigating it. So then when she started giving her ibuprofen, I was like, bitch, that ain't ibuprofen. I don't know what it is. And that was the thing. I didn't know what it was, but it did not prepare me. It didn't. I mean, even though I was anticipating it, it did not prepare me, because, and that's what's so great about it, is that it shifts gears so horrifically and quickly so many times that you just get fucking whiplash from it.
It's true.
And I feel I was saying when we were watching it to Xylia, I was I feel kind of bad that she's really getting typecasted in these white girls that you cannot trust
Category,
yeah. That's her role now. Typecasted. But then it's not really, kind of. That's like...
Well, it ends up being good at the end.
Yeah, like, he did a very good job, I think, of, like, you had this twist, because I remember me and Xylia kind of looking at each other, and we're like, the twist happens, but you're thinking, like, it's pretty early, and, like, is this movie only gonna be, like, 35 minutes long? You're like, what else can happen? And then, like, totally, like, you know, then I'm like, oh, we're gonna get this revenge film. And then it, like, twists into this, like, double revenge.
Well, that's what kind of is interesting about this movie, is that it's almost like 3 times you go in a direction, you're like, okay, this is gonna be like a virus movie. And it, like, plays in your expectations for that. And then it, like, does a big twist, and then it's like, this is gonna be this other type of movie. It's like, it does. It's good at twists, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, and then, like, I can't think of the actor's name, but the actor that plays the teacher at the school.
Steven Weber.
Like, yes. Steven Weber. And then you get, like, you also get, like, this cultish twist with, you know, like, then I'm like, oh, maybe this is, like, a cult movie. And I want to say he did a good job. I mean, maybe we'll talk about in a little bit. Like, I feel like maybe he was almost confused at what he wanted to do. He definitely didn't stick to one genre of horror. He tried to fit a lot of different kinds of genres into one movie. I think to, in my opinion, maybe kind of mask. I don't think the story was the strongest. Like, I think it was a pretty minimal, basic story, and it was just kind of like, what twists can we do? He used
different devices to, like, get through that, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, as much as I very thoroughly enjoyed it, I do feel like that it had a strong sense of set pieces that were then couched within a narrative. You know, like, you kind of, like, the set pieces were the centerpiece of the movie, not necessarily the overarching story as such. I mean, obviously, they're really good because there's 3 or 4 just insane, memorable set pieces, several of which are horrific and you'll never forget. And, you know, that is definitely the movie's strength.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think, too, you could really tell exactly what you're saying about, like, kind of the set pieces and how it almost, like, segmented the film.
Yeah,
it did,
it's almost like multiple films.
You could tell he's coming from television.
Exactly, it's very episodic,
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes really, because it could literally, that could be one, say you segment into 3, each of those could be their own thing, and the story goes on. So yeah, that's a good point. He's used to doing TV, which makes sense. The length and just, like, how it's episodic.
Because I can't really remember. I didn't look that deep into his stuff other than the notable stuff he's done. I don't think he's overly done, like, anything in film. I think this is kind of his
I feel like there were a handful of features, but
like
the rest were
stuff.
Yeah, the rest seemed to be either anthologies or television episodes.
One thing I did like, I didn't like the, like, actual technique and how it looked, but I liked how they told the story and then they would rewind. I didn't like the, like, actual movement, but I like the idea of it because it's almost like watching a movie for the first time and trying to figure out what's going on, but then rewatching it and seeing, like, all these other pieces.
You missed.
Yeah, these are all the things that you didn't even think to look about, or look at.
And I was a little concerned, I think, when we started to get into kind of the cult plot, and I was very interested because I'm like, I feel like this can either go really well or really bad. I mean, I pretty much picked up right away. I'm like, obviously these guys are, like, torturing, and then at the time I was like possibly molesting these kids. But I thought it was done, like, it was creepy, but I don't think it was, like, too overt, which I also, like, there's so much of this while I was watching it that I, like, you could just tell he is a television director. Like, I feel in the hands of, like, a French New Wave director. Like, imagine, you know, The Perfectionist via, like, Martyrs or something.
Yes, yeah.
I guess it made me happy on one hand, but then also sad on the other, because I was, like, in the hands of, like, a real auteur horror director. Like, we could have went a little more extreme, but it could have been really, like, I think more artfully done. Because I think especially that basement set piece.
Oh, I was going to say, near the end, it really came into its own in terms of, like, style.
Yeah, and like we brought up, like, I think the set pieces were amazing. I love that basement of the school. Like, I love love this, the circle, the gold circle in the background, and like the reds, and it was just like, it was very effective set pieces. It's just like, yeah, I felt something not there. Like, just not something not connecting to make it like a full out,
Yeah, it wasn't consistent across the whole movie.
No. And we always talk about this in any movie. I'm gonna go out front. I was not a big fan of the soundtrack. As someone that does, like, I don't go out of my way to listen to classical music, but, like, I do like classical music. I don't hate it. The mix of that with the rap, I just don't think was well done. It was, like, I thought the rap songs they chose were, like, super corny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it sounded like I have, like, a TV show budget, and I just, like, found this guy on SoundCloud that makes gangster rap. It was just like, I was like, I can't see, especially like they're young. Like, I was like, these guys would probably be listening to something like not this. It just sounded bizarre to me. I thought it was like stylistically, like, especially when we're in this like classical music world, like, I would have been okay with them just totally going classical rather than this, like, I just felt it was, like, cheesy.
Well, I mean, if it's well done, and there have been movies that have, like, meshed genres like that in such a way that it blows your mind, and it really kind of, like, opens up, like, a new possibility in this, like, new aesthetic kind of terrain. So I totally get that, and I don't think that it did gel as nicely as they would have liked. I get what they were going for, obviously. I think it was a little bit, instead of being subtle and well done, it was more like, kind of like a sledgehammer, it was very blunt. That said, since you did bring up the soundtrack, I did love that the chromatics were on it at the very end, covering holes.
Yes.
So that was my favorite musical moment in that film.
That was also mine. All hail chromatics. Yeah, I love that. Like I said, my biggest thing was especially like, I think it was only 2 hip hop tracks. One of them was like Deuce Mob, which I'm not familiar with. The other one, I'd never heard the name, but I looked at their Wikipedia, and apparently like they were like signed to Death Row Records or something with like Snoop Dogg and Tupac, and like they were just basically like a nobody from Death Row that I'm sure probably the director listens to or something and put in. But I just felt, like I was like, maybe those 2 choices could have been different and and meshed well together. And then I keep coming back to it, like you said, like I just feel like the music, everything is just like, it screamed television to me.
Yeah, and it's just bizarre for a movie that's so focused on music and musicians that the one kind of like underwhelming aspect of it would have been the music.
What are like other things you guys liked about it? I don't want to rag on it all the time. I did think it, like I said, I thought there were some very beautiful scenes.
I love the window.
You love the window.
It's beautiful, and it's bold, it's dramatic.
How's the architecture on that
super
school?
Extra. I mean,
save it for the architecture podcast.
Exactly. It's not my style, except for the window. The window's great.
The one that
who has a window like that underground?
In front of?
Yeah, the circular one.
Yes, I actually want to say that every time I like laid eyes on that, all I could think of was the lament configuration from Hellraiser. It just really looked like she was sitting in front of the puzzle box, which I thought was so kind of cool and maybe vaguely intentional.
A nod.
Yeah, like it's because it is sort of like in musicians, history of like music, especially when you look at like the early 20th century, it's like selling your soul for talent and like what you would do, and Hellraiser has a lot of like paying the piper for what you want and what you think you deserve and what you need and what you don't need.
I watched Hellraiser. I was forced to watch Hellraiser one time, and I don't mean that as in I don't want to watch it, but I mean we talked about this in the introduction episode. Rowan makes me watch movies that I don't want to at the time, and then it wrecks the movie for me, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
The puzzle box in Hellraiser.
I know the puzzle box. Piece. I just don't. Yeah. I just don't remember like the story.
Okay, well, just trust me. I know what I'm talking about.
I believe you.
I know what you're talking about, Mike, and yes, I agree. Like, there's very underlying similar themes. I hope it's a nod because we say it almost every other episode. Me and Mike, giant hearts for Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must say I was thoroughly unimpressed with the other architecture, but we'll leave it there.
Oh, scathing architectural reviews from Xylia.
Yeah. Expert.
I mean, I want to make sure we bring up, obviously probably the iconic scene of this film that most people are going to take away is Logan Browning cutting off her hand with the machete that appears.
When she whips that thing out of her bag.
Or a butcher's knife?
It was like a cleaver.
Yeah.
What perfect acting, though. Like, because it was so awkward and bizarre that it was amazing. Like, she just kind of had the face. Yeah, it was played so perfectly. I thought that scene was like well done on that scene. I thought it was very well done.
And that was one of the obviously several scenes in this movie, like I said, where the tone and the plot direction kind of twisted suddenly. But one thing that I've noticed about her, like when I first started watching it, I was like, oh god, like Allison Williams is, the white girl that you kind of love to hate. But then, obviously by the end of the movie, when you get all the plot twists and stuff, I was like, she's actually not typecast as problematic white girl as much as she is typecast as, like, I call her the queen of, like, character turnarounds. Because even though one of those turnarounds was her being a problematic, like, racist, horrific white woman, they use that expectation to give her another turnaround. I'm like, she's actually got way more range than I gave her credit for, especially when watching Girls. Like, I think she's I don't know, she's got a lot of potential, especially as a potential scream queen, maybe.
Yes, I'm hoping that's what she's going for.
I'd love for her to just go down that road and put a horror movie out every year and a half or so. I'd love it.
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with that. I did want to talk about, like, so once we kind of get to the final act, which to me, we switch into the genre of, like, revenge. Mm-hmm. I do want to say I thought that was played really well, because as I was watching it, and before we do the rewind where we know she fills in, like, Logan Browning's character, I really was like, I think she's gonna die. I was like, this girl's brainwashed. Like, I don't know what's going on. And, like, I thought that was a really good twist, like, when we're like, no, like, actually, this is, like, all their plan. And I loved the whole revenge part. And, like, I want to give one theater clap to the ending. Like, I loved that ending where they're playing the cello.
One hand each.
Like, one hand each, like, not only, like, is it just a great horror ending visual, but, like, I love kind of, like, the symbolism of them, like, going through this horrific thing and, like, the strengthening almost of their relationship and, like, that
even though they've
bonding.
lost physical pieces of themselves.
Like, I thought...
And they balance each other out, because it's, like, one arm.
Yeah.
Left and right.
And it was just, it was, like, I thought it was really well done. Hey, are you interested in becoming a horror hound? Then join us at www.patreon.com/itslayspodcast and check out everything we have to offer. We have cool things from podcast shoutouts to picking movies all the way to maybe getting yourself a free t-shirt. So if you're interested in joining us and becoming a horror hound, join us at patreon.com/itslayspodcast. Is there anything else you want to talk about this?
I would like to say that I know I've probably brought this movie up several times in this podcast, but I feel like there were also nods to David Lynch's daughter, Jennifer Chambers Lynch's brilliant boxing Helena with that end scene where he's got his limbs cut off. Just shout out to all, like, Twin Peaks and David Lynch and freaky movies from the 90s that came on at 2 o'clock in the morning on Showcase buffs.
I did love that. I really enjoyed that. I was scared that they were just gonna kind of, like, kill them, because realistically, like, most of the killing of the torturers and the music called is, like, off screen, kind of. So I was kind of like, And now I was in the mind, I'm like, oh, like, TV guy, so it's kind of, he's kind of playing it safe.
Yeah.
But then when they showed that, I was like, that's a really great horror image. I mean, that's, that sounds like I'm freaking Ted Bundy or something, but, like, that image of, like, all your limbs cut off and he's in the wheelchair, I'm just like, it's been used in horror movies before, and it's just, like, a great kind of horror image.
Not to be the Debbie Downer here for this whole episode, but the technique at the end when they're in the room and she has the camera right up to her face and it, like, moves with her. I don't know the name for that technique, But do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes, yeah. And it's like the camera's sort of like attached to them and follows them, yeah.
Exactly. I thought that was the most random thing ever. There was like, it was for maybe 10 seconds and it was never used any other time. It seemed so unnecessary.
Aesthetically jarring, yeah.
I was really off put by that. I was like, why are they doing this?
It was not well, it wasn't consistent with the like visual tone of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, you know, we've already sort of said that, you know, several times they've dropped tonal changes on us.
And I'm sure, but you know, I think people do this kind of subconsciously, and you know, he's probably not really, maybe he is thinking of it, but you know, we were talking about, them playing the cello together and, like, the duality and everything. But, to me, it's almost such a great metaphor for him with this duality of being a TV guy, trying to make this movie. And it was shots like that, and especially on that end piece of revenge, like, you could see him trying to be like, I'm all in and being like a movie maker and trying to like make this auteur.
I've watched
horror.
the Kubricks and exactly.
And because like you could see, and you could see like through other scenes, it was like kind of, you know, TV-ish and like, I just think the duality, possibly the making of the film and not just the actual story is at play here. Do we want to talk about if it's scary or not?
Well, I think that I've already established at least part of it is horrifically scary as someone who, I mean, you know, I didn't chop off my own hand. I wasn't hallucinating maggots. But I was afraid to walk off the bus because I was going to shit myself. So, and by the way, I got off the bus and I was about 50 feet away from a giant church, which I just thought was weirdly appropriate or inappropriate.
If you want Mike to give you the highest rating of all time, you just need to make a movie that's an hour and a half of just about shitting yourself.
Yeah.
Or trying not to.
Thinking you're going to shit yourself and then there's no bathroom. Any of that, that's all like airplanes, anything that's sort of like a giant metal coffin either on the ground or in the sky. Yeah.
So all you budding directors out there, remember that. How about you, Xylia?
I didn't think the bus scene was like scary, like, but like it was scary because I'm just like, if I was in that situation, fuck.
It's like a visceral scare.
Highly anxiety. I would be like highly anxiety ridden. So yeah, for that, yeah.
And I'm going to roll off of yours there, and I'm going to say, to me, scary isn't the word. When I think about what I saw, the word anxiety comes up. I think the movie deals with anxiety a lot. We're talking about, like, pupils and students
and their perfection is very much
and comparing themselves to other people,
Yeah,
and stuff wasn't necessarily scary, but it was like you had this anxiety, especially where there were so many twists, so you didn't know where, like, stuff was going, and so the anxiety was built up in that. But yeah, I wouldn't say, like, I'm not jumping out of my seat. It's definitely anxiety-ridden.
Yeah, well, I mean, anxiety is just a different type of terror, really.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah, it comes from a different place,
And I think maybe more people could almost relate to it.
For sure.
Are we comfortable with going into rating this?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll start off with.
Why don't you do it?
I'll start off. I'll do second. Okay. We're gonna start off. So we watched this movie with Xylia's parents, and Xylia's father was very adamant that we make sure to tell everyone that this movie was fucking shit.
He fell asleep 5 minutes into
It did not get the Wayne Herbert approval rating. I feel like that's perhaps how we should rate all movies, is through the Wayne Herbert system.
He said if he likes a movie, he won't fall asleep. If he doesn't like a movie, if he falls asleep, he knows he didn't like it, basically. And I think he didn't even make it through the beginning credits.
So for me, I'm gonna give it a yay. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a yay. I thought I was going to give it an A, but I think it's worth a watch. I'll be honest, when Mike picked this, my excitement level was not high. I was kind of like, I had seen like the trailer for it. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, I was interested because I do love both of the women in it. I think they're great and stuff. But I just was like, I don't really know. I didn't absolutely love it. It's not, it's not Argento. It's not anything like that, but I think it's worth a watch. Like, I think it was interesting. It's definitely like a different subject. I like to see horror movies that I don't normally see. So this was definitely a topic you don't normally see, like celloists and orchestra, like kids in orchestras and that grow to be women in orchestras. And
Funny how that works.
yeah. Like, I respect it on the fact that it was different. And I think for a first watch, it has great twists in it.
Yeah.
I don't think it has any watch power afterwards because all of those twists pretty much ruin the movie.
I love twist movies, but that's the thing about them. Once you see them once,
Yeah.
you will never enjoy it as much again, I don't think.
It's hard to have a twist that sticks.
Yeah.
And people love over and over again.
Because the twist is all about surprise.
But the twist has to not be the bone of the movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
there's got to be more meat on it than that. Because if it's hung completely around the twist, then obviously, there's not much else to chew on.
Yeah.
So let's go to you, Xylia.
No, go to Mike first.
Well, it was Mike's movie. I thought he might want to end it.
Okay. I'm going to have to give this an A solely because that 10-minute scene with the bus, and then she's like, oh, do you want, like, I have a machete here randomly. And then she chops off her hand. That piece there, I really like, but that's about it. And I can't say that I truly like a movie if I like 10 minutes of it.
Fair. I think that's fair. It's like I said, I think some people will like this. I think some people won't. Mike, how about you?
I will definitely give it a yay. And similar to you, I think that it's gonna have diminishing returns if you watch it multiple times, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. Obviously it had some ups and downs and it was a flawed movie, but there was a couple, of the set pieces, especially the bus one, that just really, it was like this movie had its foot on my throat a couple times, like it was just pushing me down. So for those alone, and I think they were some of the best set pieces that I've seen in a while in a horror movie. So I really appreciated that. And then the style at the end, I thought was really cool. The lighting and stuff like that. I wish the whole movie had been more consistently shot like that, but obviously the context changed several times throughout the movie. And other than that, I also thought that like Logan Browning fucking served everything. She served a performance. Her look was like could just cut you open. It was so fucking sharp, this whole movie, and I just think she's brilliant and I love her. And she just like Allison Williams obviously was brilliant, and I kind of came away with this hoping that she would become a Scream Queen. But Logan Browning to me is like even more memorable because she just, like I said, she serves.
Yeah, she definitely served it.
She's not the underdog of it that Allison Williams is, and she just, to me, she's more of the powerhouse of the movie.
So 2 A's and an A.
I think I've established.
Fucking sucks.
Yeah, I think I've established myself as perhaps the most
contrarian,
harsh.
I mean, we established within the first episode that me and Mike like anything presented to us, really.
I guess that's true.
Just a reminder to follow us on all of our social media at It Slays Podcast. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, soon to be on Tumblr. Of course, we're on Spotify and iTunes. And if you're adding us on iTunes, don't forget to leave us an iTunes review. It doesn't even need to be 5-star. We appreciate 5-star. But the most important part is we want to hear from you. So write us a text review in the iTunes app, and we will make sure to give you a shout out on the podcast. Every review helps as it bumps us up in the search engine, and that's what it's all about. Back to the podcast. So with that, we're gonna go into questions that we asked on Instagram literally at noon. We're recording this, it's like 9:30 our time, 10 Mike's time. So I went on at lunch and I asked question, and the question I asked was, we wanted to know your favorite horror musicals. I was really trying to figure out what question I was going to ask. I was trying to find horrors about musicians, but that was kind of hard. So I just said horror musicals. So first I'll let you know that we had a lot of people vote. So we said like yay or nay, essentially, for what you liked. I do want to shout out, I'm going to shout out your actual Instagram so people could follow you. So CJE Simpson contributed. Big Colton.
Yeah, we love him.
Kruger's Girl, and Kruger's is with a Z in it.
Zed.
Sorry, I'm not Canadian enough. Emily J. Ain, Ghost Coffee Shop, Shattered _images _films, and the I Hope You Suffer podcast all threw a vote in there. So I figured I'd let you know.
What a bunch of royalty. Everyone.
Yeah, really putting up with us. So our first option was Anna and the Apocalypse. I haven't seen that yet.
I've seen it.
It's a Christmas movie, so maybe December. It got 2 yeses, so 2 yays and 1 nay. The next one was Repo, the Genetic Rock Opera.
So good.
Yeah.
3 yeses, 2 nos. You know people might be on my bad list for that one.
Yeah, of course.
Next was the Trauma Classic Poultrygeist. Night of the Living Chicken Dead or Dead Chicken. That got 3 yeses, 0 nays.
Wow.
Of course.
So far, we got the golden seal on Poultrygeist.
Next was another trauma movie, Cannibal the Musical, which was Trey Parker?
Yeah.
The South Park guys. It was like their first movie. That got 1 yay, 1 nay. Next was Little Shop of Horrors. That got 4 yays and 1 nay. The Rick Moranis one. Then our last two, one was The Nightmare Before Christmas, something for the kids. And that got 2 nays and 5 yays.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was like, woo.
And last was Sweeney Todd, and that got 5 yays and 2 nays as well. So I do want to thank everyone that commented, and we'll make sure to, now that we're all moved and settled, we'll post more stuff.
The people are divided, except for on Poultrygeist.
The people are
Poltergeist
very
is
divided.
100% hit.
And I also wanted to do some Patreon shout-outs. I figure, you guys contribute monetarily to the podcast. You deserve a
And
shout-out.
spiritually. You give us spiritual sustenance.
So, shout out to our newest Patreon, Colton. We will be sending you a thank you card soon. Now that we're moved, we will.
I just have to find my markers.
It's going down. And
Be
then
prepared.
Shout out to the OG Cecily, the first one. Shout out to Ashton and Jennifer, all queens and kings.
Yeah.
Just representing
We
for
love.
It's Lay's podcast. So I think that will leave us with my pick. So this is very complicated. So I had my pick, and then as we did this podcast, so I'll start with the theme. The theme was, I said we should do an iconic horror series, and I'll pick, one of the first films. And I thought I had it. And then we brought up another one, and then I was like, why did I not pick that one? And then I was going to pick that one, but now I'm going back to my original.
Remember when we talked about being concise?
Yeah, being concise is not us.
No.
So Xylia will be happy to know, although anyone that is a kindred spirit with me and Mike will be crying right now. I was gonna switch to Hellraiser.
I'm fine rewatching it. I didn't.
It will come, but I think this is more important. We're getting into fall. All the kids went back to school.
You should see how intense he is
I
right
am
now.
very intense on the table right now. And I like to see kids in school. I like to see scary things
That's a
happen.
creepy thing to say.
Not creepy like that. I like to see kids in high school get murdered. That's
Okay.
That's less creepy.
Less creepy.
Less creepy.
Please be more specific.
So my pick is A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. We're gonna do it.
I stand. Yes, this is a good choice.
I knew Mike was gonna appreciate that. I figured I had to crack this can of worms.
We might as well. It's we're just dancing around it. We might as well just get to it. I mean, we have to. Like, there's only so long you can avoid doing the iconic, like, omnipresent in your life series.
It's also only so long that you can ignore very young Johnny Depp.
In a
Possibly
crop top.
That's right. So that is my pick, because I know we're going to want to do more of them, and I don't know if we've ever talked about it, but Xylia hates doing movies out of order.
Oh no, what one are you doing?
The first one. We're doing the first one.
Rowan tries to hide behind me like I'm a friggin' shield, but he also hates doing things out of order. So the truth comes out.
It's the OCD. Only Mike is here to throw out.
Oh yes, I
Mike,
love
like,
just
throws a
starting in
wrench
the
and
middle.
everything.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm the chaos in this podcast, in this group. I am pure chaos. I'm here to upset you all. I'm here to spike your anxiety and your punch.
So yeah, I think that'll be everything. So yeah, next episode, A Nightmare on Elm Street. You may get another episode from us before then. I think we're gonna do a mini horror house one. I think we're all gonna try to go see it. If you have seen it already and we haven't, don't tell us anything unless you see my shining face in it. Because yeah, we haven't talked about that.
Spoiler alert, Ro
Spoiler
might
alert,
actually be in it.
If I made the cut, I should be in a scene. So
And your brother.
and my brother as well, and I don't think he got cut, so hopefully we're both in it. But yeah, if you see a guy, you're like, hey, that kind of looks like Rowan, it might be. So I'm in a insane asylum, so
Psychiatric facility.
Watch the
Psychiatric
background.
facility.
Yes. How dare you? What is this?
No,
1970s?
he's like, if he's in it, he's like with the main person.
I'm hoping I'll be front and center, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out. I think that's everything for this episode. So, as always, I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Xylia.
And Mike.